Less than 3 hours to kick off in Kobe, live to the Kobe Misaki Stadium. Alan Quinlan, come on in.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
How are you getting on? What's it like out there? We were chatting to Owen earlier on. He said it's a bit muggy, but not near as muggy as it's going to be inside a bit later on.
Yeah, I'm outside the stadium. You can see it behind me here. It's lashing rain, so we'll be glad the roof is closed today. Conditions are going to be very difficult either way, with the heat, the humidity, and the slippy ball. There was 35 turnovers in the England-USA game, the first game played here. The second one, Scotland-Samoa, 30 turnovers. So it's going to be very difficult, but I think everyone will be pretty glad the roof is closed now. It is going to be like a sauna, so it's going to be very hot and sticky in there, but the fans are getting wet outside. The players will be perspirating inside.
Yeah. Well, at least with the rain, it was going to be wet now either way, I suppose. Like this, when we spoke before the Japan game, my first question to you was if we were being a bit blasé about that Japan game, and obviously you made the point at the time that we might be, but internally they're probably not. Now, obviously we know the way that game went. Outside of the obviously performance today, Quinny, or ideally it's a bonus point winner is what we're looking at. Touch wood. What are you looking for from this game today?
I think in a game like this, Adrian, you want them to be ruthless. So maybe it's asking a bit much that they score 50 points and don't concede any points. That would be the perfect scenario. But the Russians will definitely be very, very determined to try and unsettle Ireland a little bit. They'll see that there's a little bit of vulnerability there. It's essentially a second string forward pack. Mark McDermott, I had a good chat with him yesterday, and I think he's very realistic that Russia are going to be under massive pressure here, but he tells me that their players are trying to put themselves on a bigger scale, maybe get opportunities to get clubs in Europe themselves. And one thing about the Russian sports people and these rugby players is they're very proud, and they're very proud to wear the jersey. So that will only take you so far. They missed 48 tackles in the first game against Japan, and they missed 44 against Samoa. So that tells you that there's going to be opportunities and that they get very disjointed in defence, but they will come out initially and try and rattle Ireland. Their pack is very, very big. They're physical guys, and the danger for Ireland is that they try and play too much early on, that they try and go for scores, because if they drop a pass or if a big tackle comes in or if there's a mistake made, then the nerves start settling in with Ireland, and Russia get a little bit of confidence out of that. So I think early on, what I would like to see is just a kind of a ruthless, direct approach. Make sure the set piece is right, and don't run the ball out of your own 22 just for the sake of it. Kick it down the field, keep it simple early on. And in my history of playing in games where you're playing on a team that's much stronger than the opposition, you've got to try and earn the right to win the game by being physical. And they're under pressure. There's absolutely no doubt about. Last week will have rattled them. And the only way they can get back on track is get a good positive bonus point win. Someone like Andy Farrell won't be happy if they concede sloppy tries. So in an ideal world, they score a lot of points and don't concede any. But that's in an ideal world. At the end of the day, they've just got to get a big score, get a bonus point win, and hopefully rebuild themselves a little bit again.
Like one quick one on Russia, Quinny, and you were talking to Mark McDermott, so feel free to spill any beans that he sent in your direction. What's their best tactic today? Is it hit it high early and often, or what's their best ploy trying to curtail this expected Irish onslaught?
Well, they'll try and go after Ireland's set piece. To be fair, Russia's scrum and line out in the first two games the stats are very high. I think they lost one line out, one scrum against Samoa. They were 100% against Japan. So their set piece is good, and they're a little bit like the Georgian mentality of very forward orientated. They have some talented players in the back line, but realistically, if they have any chance of doing anything here, it's up front. Their back row is very, very big and powerful, which you'd expect. So they want to get their loose forwards kind of running at Ireland and making them tackle and get a bit of a rumble on Ireland, get stuck into them, a bit of old school rugby. And I think that's what Macro was kind of saying to me yesterday, that they've just got to do that and bring a huge intensity for as long as they can. They did die and tire in both games, in their opening two games in the last 20 minutes. They're not as fit as the other teams. They're not as well prepared. So physicality can only last so long. So that's what we're going to try and do, unsettle Ireland up front a little bit and hope that some of their one-out runners can make some charging runs and stuff, and rock Ireland a little bit. But I just think, given what happened last week, and it's dangerous for me saying this, I just think that we will see a really, really determined, energetic Ireland. The conditions are going to be difficult, and I'm kind of preparing myself for maybe some mistakes and handling errors, but ultimately they've got to win the collisions early on, and you've got to do that no matter who you're playing at any level. It's the same in most sports. If you go out and you're a little bit standoffish and you're expecting people around you for it to happen, just because you're supposed to win well, it can be very dangerous. So I just think they've got to keep it pretty simple early on, and physically. First and foremost in rugby, and I learned this as a kid, and one of my first coaches in rugby kept saying to me always, and I remember to this day, you've got to earn the right to play rugby, in a sense that it is a physical game, and if you're a little bit off there, your opposite number can get the better of you, and he can get energy from that. So there's a massive pressure, I think, today on this pack. Even though it is a second string pack, someone like Peter O'Mahony has to impose himself in the game. He has to, for himself more than anything, he has to play well. Niall Scannell, it's a big opportunity for him. Rhys Ruddock is someone who could kind of push his way into the starting lineup with the bigger matches that are maybe going to come against Samoa in the quarterfinals. So there's a lot to play for a lot of guys here.
Yeah, what about Scannell, Quinny? 27 years of age, should be probably coming into his prime in that position. There's going to be a vacancy there very shortly. Is he the next man up?
I think he is. He's probably Sean Cronin, whether he likes it or not, and he probably doesn't like it because a lot of his caps are off the bench, and I think he's a wonderful player. I think Scannell is probably seen as the next in line, and if someone like Niall Scannell had a big game, scored a couple of tries, made a lot of tackles, carries, well then, even though it's only Russia, he could come into the coach's thinking. But Tadhg Beirne is another one. He's kind of known now and being kind of put in that role of Sean Cronin, being an impact player off the bench for Ireland. And I came off the bench a few times for Ireland myself. It's not where you want to be. You want to be in the starting team. So internally, the players have got to drive this themselves and have a real kind of anger or narkiness about them, saying, I want to be on the team for Samoa next week. I want to be on the team for the quarterfinals. And like I said, Andrew Conway was brilliant in the first game. There's Keith Earls and Rob Kearney start there, and Jacob Stockdale in the back three. So if he scores a couple of tries, Bundy Aki coming back into the team. They've all got to play well, and it was really a lot of spoken about during the week about the captaincy and Johnny Sexton. The players around him have got to play well for Johnny Sexton to play well.
On Sexton, Quinny, what's his narrative today when he's gone out there? He was in the press conference after the Japan game, sort of in a situation that obviously he didn't play, so he can sort of defend, the way they played and all that. But the out half position in terms of his kicking, obviously he wasn't able to kick the first day as well. So what are we expecting from him, and what's he going to try to impose in the game today?
I think the best form of leadership for Johnny Sexton today, Johnny, is just play well himself and stay calm. Pascal Gazer is the ref. People have spoken a little before that Johnny can get narky with the referees, and he just needs to forget about that today. He just needs to lead by example, good body language, and play well himself. I've said this to people at the start of the week, and a couple of times in this tour, they've asked me about, Sexton, Carberry being injured, and, Jack Carty stepping up, and why haven't we more fly halves, and we've 4 years to prepare for this. But if you took Owen Farrell and George Ford out of England, how would they cope? If you took Bowden Barrett and Richie Mo'unga out of New Zealand, how would they cope? It's just such a pivotal position, and I think he's been very unlucky with the injuries. No one more than Johnny Sexton would love to play 10 games on the trot. He's that type of guy. He wants to play every week. He's been very unlucky, and I know he's a little bit older now. So for Ireland to have any chance of potentially going past the quarter-final, which has become more unlikely because we lost to Japan, and there's more vulnerability there. If there's any chance of that happening, well, we need a fit Johnny Sexton, because when he's on song, he drives the people around him. He creates a real kind of enthusiasm and an energy, and he's a great leader. He's been there, done it before. And I think more than anything, I've said this during the week, the players need to drive this themselves, and they need to drive a performance in the stadium here behind afterwards, because they're the ones, their backs are to the wall. You know, if they were to win 28-7 or a 28-5 or a 33-9 like we saw USA and France last night, you know, France are getting lambasted for that performance. They were very, very poor. That's not good enough for Ireland today. They need to be hitting the 40s and you know, trying to keep the Russian score to a minimum. And Sexton is the captain, and he's picked for a reason to try and lead the team, and hopefully he does that.
Yeah, like, it was an interesting comment that I'd seen. Ruth Gorman from UTV had an interview with him in the lead into this game, and he was talking about the captaincy, and he was saying that he said when he was younger, I had a conversation with Declan Kidney about it, about the possibility of it, and he said he regretted how that conversation went, or his reaction to that conversation, which was a fascinating thing. There wasn't any more details on it. I'm sure we'll hear more again, but it's clearly, and actually looking at the timeline, it made no sense to me, because Brian O'Driscoll would have been there until I think 2014. Kidney was obviously gone in 2013, so I don't know, was it like a succession plan conversation, or what had been had at that point?
It was around the time when Declan took the captaincy off Dricko, and he wanted Dricko to try and concentrate on playing himself. Right. And he gave it to Jamie Heaslip then for the Six Nations, I think it was 13 or 14 anyway. And I think Johnny Sexton he was spoken to by Declan about his interest in kind of stepping up to that leadership role, and he kind of declined it and wanted to concentrate on playing. There's a lot of pressure with captaining your country. Right. I wouldn't like to be the captain of Ireland last Saturday after losing to Japan, because the scrutiny and the negativity and the naysayers, and you know, you've got to carry that. They try and block that out, and good captains do, I suppose. But some people, it suits them to be captain. Other people just want to get on with their game. And at that time, I think he was kind of saying he wanted to just concentrate on it. He's much more experienced now, and he's been through Lions tours, and he's seen other captains, how they've coped, and he's probably saying, well, I look back now and maybe I should have pushed myself forward a little bit more. Yeah. Because he was a starting kind of leader on that team, and he was a Lions player in 2013 in Australia, so he was one of the top players, and he was kind of in that world-class bracket. So I think that's what he's saying, that maybe in hindsight he should have kind of pushed himself forward. Yeah, I do. I was like, you're right, and it must have been 12, 13, and I remember at the time he would have been asked about it, because it was a fairly elongated process, if I remember rightly. He would have been asked about it several times in the media, and he would have said things like, this is not the platform for me to get into a conversation with you about it's not befitting of the role for me to get into a conversation with you about being the Irish captain, which for me was, and there were other candidates at the time who were not shy about letting everybody know what their interest in it and what a great captain they would be, whereas he was like not interested in having the conversation, but which to me recommended him as the captain. But anyway, it's surprising that it's taken this long for him to get there, and no doubt gets off to a winning start with it today. What's your expectation of the outcome, given conditions and the pressure and the second string nature of at least sections of that team? Jesus, I don't know. I'm a broken man myself after last Saturday. I think I mentioned the word humble pie, didn't I, to you last Friday morning? You might have done. That I'd have to eat humble pie, or no, egg on my face. Yeah. So either is fine anyway. Yeah. Either is fine, Johnny. Yeah. So. It's created an uncertainty and a doubt in me. If we'd beaten Japan, I'd say we'll win by 50 today, and it'll be easy peasy. But look, 30-40 point win, I think, is the minimum requirement, and anything less will be disappointing. It won't be devastating, but it'll be disappointing. You know what? If I was playing there today, and the most frustrating part of being involved in these types of games, where you do win by 30 or 40, is not conceding. You know, we see it in football a lot, in soccer. You know, if you keep a clean sheet, it's seen as a badge of honour, and that will be a bit of a badge of honour if they keep Russia off the score sheet. Now, that's difficult in rugby. They can get a penalty or whatever. We saw the All Blacks last night keeping Canada down to 0. And that's something you can really focus on, and you can build a little bit of momentum that, even though the threat is not the same as a top-level team, you've stayed focused, you've stayed concentrated, your body language has been right, your energy has been good. So 30-40 points. The spread, I think, is 53, which is big. I'm not sure it'll be that, but hopefully 40 point win.
It's 10-5 in the afternoon there.
Correct.
Are you standing outside a pub?
No, I'm standing outside the stadium. The stadium is behind me.
Who's singing the Fields of
Owen
Athenry
Sheehan-
in the background?
They're just down a little bit in the street here, some of the Irish fans. They're absolutely getting saturated, and I mean saturated. There's loads of ponchos, in fairness, but there's umbrellas everywhere. We're just kind of at the back of the stadium. The media compound is right behind me here. This is the broadcast compound, so it's not really an entrance for the supporters to go in. It's kind of down around that side of the stadium. But Owen Sheehan is here, standing here, and he's giving me the nod because he wants to go in and have some peanut butter sandwiches. They're actually in Japan. We'll bring home some for you.
Sounds like a Japanese delicacy, all right. When those Irish fans get their eyes on the Munster legend up the road.
They haven't a clue who I am anymore.
No, Paul O'Connell is in for...
Oh, he's up. Paul is behind me here, is he?
Quinny, good man. Enjoy the game. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks a lot.